In continuation with the discussions on Amazon S3 storage service, this session would focus on the topic of Amazon Glacier, as you can see on my screen. That is the data archival solution, and it is a storage class being offered by AWS that fit for the set of objects that do not require frequent access. It can be, for example, medical records of a patient that is stored and needs to be kept as an archive that can be accessed if required at a later stage, maybe after a few months, few years, right? And when we are accessing the objects from Amazon Glacier, we cannot get those files immediately. It will take time. It can be minutes, it can be hours to retrieve the data back, right? And it is the cheapest option among the other storage classes. But the key point to note here is, as we were making changes to the storage classes of the objects that were kept on S3 on the fly, we cannot do it with Amazon Glacier. Now, what I'm trying to say over here is, I have my bucket, I have a subfolder, and then I have a file with storage class as one zone infrequent access. That is the standard storage class. Now I can make change. I can select this file and I can say, okay, change storage class, and I will have these four options. I can switch it back to the standard storage class. I can switch it to the standard infrequent access. I can switch it to reduced redundancy storage. But I cannot see any option of switching it to Amazon Glacier, because there is another way of making that transition of storage classes, and that is through the lifecycle policy, as you can see over here in the screen. So it is a kind of setting the object threshold for moving any object from other set of storage classes to Glacier. We can add a lifecycle rule and we can say, okay, after certain days move a particular file from standard storage class into another storage class, which can be Amazon Glacier. So this is one thing that I will be discussing in this video, and another thing is making use of reduced redundancy storage class to save up the cost. And this storage class is suitable for the content that can be reproduced. Now, for example, I am altering the images, and I am making all those changes to images, and I am editing them with the help of a software, and then I am storing the altered images, right? Now this can be stored in reduced redundancy storage class to save up the cost. The thumbnails that I am creating from original images can be stored in reduced redundancy storage class, while I can keep the original content in standard storage. Because even if I'm not able to, let's say, get the thumbnails from reduced redundancy storage, I would be able to reproduce from the original images that are stored in standard storage class. So this is where we can make use of reduced redundancy storage. And then I would be talking about some of the benefits, like setting up the life cycles, setting up the public URL for a particular file that can be shared across your team, and then object versioning, right? We can have different versions of the same file stored in a bucket or a subfolder. And then, of course, we can run big data analytics directly on S3. So coming back to my management console, so I'll just cancel this. And first thing that I would like to show you guys is, if I click on this file, I will have this option of the link, right? This is a public link. that I can share with anyone if I want to send some file, right? I can try opening it, and as you can see, scan is going on, okay, before the download happens. So see, it got downloaded, isn't it? So this can be done, and to share a file publicly, we can either make it public, or we can go to permissions and we can click on public access. We have already given the public access, then that is the reason I'm able to access this file from that link, and we can give read permissions, right? Let's say I take off this permission, okay, uh, and let's try to access the file via URL again. I'll say open. See, it says access denied, right? So we need to make the file public if we want to share it across our team. So we can do it from this option also, make public, and this will automatically set the permissions to public access, right? And I go back, and if I click on it, it will download. See, the download is happening, right? So this was the concept of object sharing. I just wanted to discuss that, and now coming back, uh, another thing that I want to discuss is like how to, you know, run the life cycle rule over here, right? I can add a life cycle rule, and I can give some name, transition files to Glacier, right? I can click on next, and it's a storage class transition that I was talking about earlier, so we can add rules. So as you can see, you can add rules in lifecycle configuration to tell Amazon S3 to transition objects to another storage class, less expensive one. When we are not needing those files on regular basis, we can definitely transition those objects to less expensive storage classes, right? Amazon Glacier is one of them. So this will select for the current version, okay? Since we have not enabled versioning, so I will say okay, for current versions I will add a transition. Now select a transition. It says transition to standard infrequent, transition to one zone infrequent, and transition to Amazon Glacier. So this is what I was talking about. I can set okay for after how many days I create an object, it will be transferred to Glacier. I say after 1 day. I click on next, and I can say okay. I have this rule over here, lifecycle rule, transition files to Glacier, and the scope is whole bucket. So whatever is there in the bucket, would be transitioned to Amazon Glacier after 1 day. So this is how we can change the storage classes, and we can mark the objects to be transferred to Amazon Glacier, right? And I can save it. So this is something I wanted to discuss from lifecycle rule perspective. And another thing is, I just wanted to discuss about the versioning part. So over here, if we see, we can set the versioning, right? And I will go to my bucket over here, and I can go to the properties, right? Keep multiple versions of an object in the same bucket, right? So it is disabled currently, and we can enable it, where we can have different versions created of the same file. So I think that's pretty much from the area of AWS S3 as a storage solution. Uh, we call it a simple storage service, and the content that we have covered over a series of videos is very much suitable for the current course that we are discussing, that is for AWS Cloud Practitioner exam. Thank you guys.